And good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council members. I am excited to present the 2010 Citizen Survey Report of Results. Just get started here. And I apologize if I read from my notes. I like to try to keep these numbers straight, and it can be a little bit tricky now that we've got 5 years worth of data.
Jen, may
yes.
I interrupt you one moment
please.
with an initial setup question? Exactly during what period of time was the survey conducted?
October, November.
Okay, thank you.
This, as I mentioned, the fifth biennial citizen survey. We do these every other year and began in 2002. Conducted in October and November of 2010, and we use the same period of time during each year for each survey. The overall goal of the survey is to assess the quality of life in Moscow and the city services and how our residents perceive those services. We reach out to citizens who don't regularly interact, the folks that maybe don't come to meetings or don't write in or let us know their opinion. And for purposes of analysis, we divide the city into 7 different geographic sectors, and that allows us to take any information that is collected and divide it by those sectors to see if there's a difference in opinion from one area of our city to another. The survey is conducted in the same manner it has been in the previous years. We do a direct mail survey, 1,200 households who are randomly selected from the entire 83843 zip code, excluding anything that's outside of the city limits. We do a pre-survey announcement postcard that goes out about a week before our actual survey tool. The survey itself is an 8-page survey with a cover letter from the mayor and includes a return stamped envelope, postage paid envelope, that is. The methodology for the survey, we use the Likert scale. It's a 5-point scale, and that goes from, for instance, strongly agree, agree, neutral, disagree, and strongly disagree. The same instance, excellent to strongly dislike, some of those types of things. We also take that 5-point Likert scale and convert it to a 100-point scale, and this gives us a couple of different benefits. One, it's easier to comprehend. On a scale of 1 to 100, 70 is a good result, and also national data is considered on a 100-point scale, so it allows us to compare with that as well. The report itself is organized much like the survey is. We've got our standard city questions, the bulk of which have been asked in every survey since 2002. There have been some additions over the years. And then we go into a commission and task force question, which in this year's report is a little bit different than previous years. I looked back at previous surveys to determine if commissions had asked questions in more than 1 year, and if they had, we gave them some of that comparison data within the report. And I don't review the commission questions in this tonight because it gets rather lengthy as we look at 15 different commissions, but I'm happy to answer any questions or talk about those at any time. The demographic questions are the same from year to year, and as I'll talk about in a moment, our demographics that we see in the survey match up nicely with the 2010 census that was just released this last month as well. And we also have 2 open-ended comment questions where we allow our respondents to provide any information they would like considered, very general categories, and we tabulate all of those as well. As we look at the results for the survey, you'll notice within the report all of the bar charts do not include the don't know and the non-response answers. But the survey tool that's in Appendix C does include the don't knows. And those that have a high non-response rate of 20% or more are noted so with an asterisk. And those just mean we have a smaller sample, which means the data could be less reliable. And instead of maybe a 5% confidence interval, we look at maybe a 10% for some of those. The data comparison allows us, again, we've got the citizen surveys from previous years, and we've also got our national data that we use. That comes from the ICMA database from the year 2000. And we also have those geographic sectors that we can compare each other to as well. For the 2010 survey, some of the general information, we had a 31% response rate. That's 358 completed return surveys, 42 surveys that came back to us unopened or returned to sender that just weren't even considered for completion. In the past years, we've had response rates up to 43%, and 26% is the number that we need to stay above to make sure this survey stays statistically valid and empirically defensible. So 31% is a great response rate for a survey of this type. Demographics, as I mentioned, we've got 59% of our respondents are female, 38 are male. 2 items that we stick out, or that stick out a bit more here in Moscow, would be the 20-year residents. We have a very high percentage of long-term residents at 38. And also, considering we're a university of town, the 68% of our respondents who have a bachelor's or higher degree makes good sense as well. And then some of the dwelling information that's been included in the past, of course, 63% single-family detached, 24% apartments, 8% duplexes or townhouses, and 4% mobile homes. And as I mentioned, all of these demographics, for the most part, stack up to the 2010 census that was just released. Now, who responded to this actual survey based on their geographic distribution? We had a big jump in the city center north sector, increased from 12% in 2008 to 25% in 2010. Some of the things that could be attributed to, we did try to send the survey out just a bit earlier to avoid any holidays. Other than that, percentages across the board for the sectors stack up to previous years. Some of those that are lower, of course, like university, some of those types of sectors that have maybe more students, more of a transient population, we see a lower percentage rate return there. The other demographic that we gather information on is method of transportation. We have and this is, I'm sorry, for commute. We asked them what they use for their method of transportation for their commute. 65% motorized vehicle, 10% walk, and 9% bicycle.
And just clarification, Jen, that's the longest distance traveled and
Longest
their
distance,
usual
true. Yes.
purpose.
Mm-hmm. And then for our results, one of the first things we ask about is quality of life, and we had a 95% response noting that people felt the quality of life in Moscow was excellent or good. This is the highest percentage rating we've received. We've been trending upwards for the past several years. That's a 100-point score of 82, and that's very comparable to a national average of 66. Quality of life in Moscow, I think, as we all know, is rated very well. One of the other items that we saw some significant changes in, or just were interesting to note, overall quality of neighborhoods, we score 77, national average at 66. And I included Moscow as a place to raise children, especially because we saw a jump in our score. We're at 83% compared to a national average of 61. And coincidentally, in the December issue of Bloomberg Magazine Online, they do an annual survey of the best place to raise kids. And Moscow, Idaho was the #1 place in Idaho to raise kids, as was Pullman, Washington, which was interesting to know as well. Now, the specific characteristics as they relate to Moscow, we have a laundry list, which you can see in the graph to the right there. The two that saw the most significant change, and most significant change in our survey, considering we have a 95% confidence interval, anything that's plus or minus 5%, or kind of correlating to the 100-point score, 3 to 5 points, I noted within the report specifically, and I'm noting here tonight. Job opportunities, I think as we heard Jeff Jones speak, we saw a significant decrease in the score for job opportunities from 48 to 41 when we compared to 2008. Shopping opportunities also saw a bit of a reduction from 54 in 2008 to 50 in 2010. All other scores were fairly in line with previous years, and that specific data is, of course, included in the full report. Safety, this is rated on a scale of very safe, safe, neutral, unsafe, very unsafe. In violent crimes, people are feeling more safe with a score of 86, up from 84. Same with property crimes and fires. Very much in line with things we've seen in the past, but a positive increase of at least a point in those, which is interesting to note. Of course, safety when walking alone. Folks feel most safe in their neighborhood, which I think makes sense for most of us. Alone in downtown, we saw a 2-point increase. City parks, a point increase. And then people who were comfortable with the level of street lighting, we saw a 5-point increase in that category from 2008, which, like I said, anything more than 2 to 3 is pretty significant. Now, looking at problems within the city of Moscow, the two that stood out in this category were taxes and domestic violence, and these were not perceived to be a problem. It's a bit of a negative. So in taxes, people felt that they were less of a problem at a score of 72% than they were in 2008 at a score of 66%. The same with domestic violence. With domestic violence, they had a difference between 65% in 2010 versus 68 in 2008. Those were the biggest movers in the category. Everything else was in line with the previous years. Growth in our city. We have got a population growth, 1-point change there. Business and retail growth, again, we heard Jeff Jones speak to a moment ago, was gone from 69 in 2008 to 64 in 2010. And then that jobs growth, again, is indicated with a 4-point decrease.
Madam Mayor, may I?
Yes, please.
Jen, could you expound on that? What exactly are we looking at? Are we looking Is the higher the number good, or the lower the number better, or
Let me double check.
Yep.
that one puzzles
This is
me.
a much too slow to much too fast. So in this case, we are saying that 60, on a scale of 1 to 100, as a score of 64, they're saying it's much too slow. The higher the number, let me see, let me keep it straight here, my percentages versus my 100-point scales. They are feeling it's moving much slower this time than it was in 2008. They feel it's slowing down.
And the same is true for jobs.
And for all three of those, they're all in the same category.
Population went up by 1 point.
They feel the population is moving too fast, but our jobs are moving too slow.
Okay.
All right.
Let's see. Activity frequency, these are the amounts of times that people participate in these 6 predetermined categories, 3 of which were not asked about in 2002. But we're, let me get back to my notes on that one. The participated in a recreation program or activity with a score of 70 in 2010 and 73 in 2008. Interesting to note, but still within that 1 to 3, so not a huge change there. And then attended a event at the 1912 Center, a score of 77 in 2010 and 80 in 2008. Again, just a 3-point move, but some of the biggest movers in that particular category. Otherwise, pretty substantial continuation of previous years.
Excuse me, Jen, could you
Yes.
back up to that one about
Please.
recycling? What does... wow.
More than 26 times
Everybody puts it out every week.
compared to previous
Do you
years.
have any, I don't have any problem with the bar or the answer, but the way it jumped up over previous years is a puzzle.
No, that's all this
No,
year.
that's not previous.
That's
year.
all this year.
That's all
That's
this
just
year.
the number of people
Okay, I've got you.
who
Thank
do
you.
that in this year,
Thank you.
or have that frequency in this year.
Got it.
This table is, it's a lot of information for one slide, but it's, the primary reason I wanted to include it was to show that there was not a significant difference in most of these categories. There are several that I'll hit on here in just a minute, but from 2002 to 2010, we're looking at a 1 to 3 point difference. Trending sometimes, I mean, a point here or there, we're gaining momentum over 4 to 5 years, but there are several that I would like to talk about. Noting first, planning and zoning scores typically rank lower in services provided by cities, but in 2010, we received a score of 52 compared to 48 in 2008, 45 in 06, 47 04, and 54 in 02. So we're seeing that one come back a bit. And like I said, generally rated, when compared to the national data, lower in all cities across the board. Yes,
Excuse me,
sir.
Tim?
Jan, I think it's important that you comment on street maintenance on city services.
Here we are.
Oh,
That's where I'd like to take you next.
Shall receive.
This was an interesting category. When the survey was sent out in October and November, we had record snowfall in November. In 2008, we had a monster snowfall as well when the survey was out. And we saw a dip in some of our scores in 2008 and attributed it to the snow. So when we looked at it this year, we saw a rebound of our scores, which was nice to see. We're up from 55 in 2008 to 60 in street maintenance. Snow removal, again, a 5-point gain. Cleanliness of streets went from 62 to 70. And sidewalk maintenance from 49 to 54. So some of the programs and things that we've seen there, it's interesting to see how we're managing. Also, when you look at our snow removal task force and some of the other things we've done, it's nice to see those scores heading in the right direction.
It's pre-Burminator.
I was going to say, the Burminator.
The Burminator.
That's pre-Burminator.
So now it'd even be higher.
So value of services received. These are the perceptions of our citizens and how much they pay for a service versus what they're receiving for that particular service. Again, very much in line with previous year's data. The big one is the Parks and Recreation Program. Of course, people seeing, as you can tell by the bars there, they're seeing the value of the services going up. Let's see here. I had a specific note. And one thing I do want to note, this is a good place to do it. Some of these bars, it's a little more obvious in your actual report. If you look at Parks and Recs programs here, the yellow and the green bars don't look exactly the same. We're looking at some rounding differences there. They are technically rounded to, I think it's 62, 68% for that one, or 68 points, excuse me. So those bars don't exactly line up. It's a rounding surrounding issues, so. An interaction with city government, this one I thought was interesting as well, and I do need to make an apology. There was an item that was inadvertently left off when we transferred the survey tool from an older version of Word into the newer one, and that was contacted a city council member regarding a policy or process. That will be included in future surveys, and we'll have some good data to trend there.
I just have to make a comment about, y'all get the prize for today. More emails about a topic today than any other time I've been on council.
I think you folks have been contacted, so that's good to know. There was one exception in this category that was different. Everything else kind of trended as in previous years. The number of respondents who noted they had read a legal notice in the newspaper increased to 71 on the 100-point scale in 2010, up from 68 in 2008, and 65 was the lowest in 2006. So that was interesting to see. Overall citizen view of the city, some movement in a positive direction for these scores as well. As you can see, pleased with the overall direction, 58 in 2010, 54 in 08, welcomes involvement up 3 points, considers citizens' opinions up 4 points, and provides access to information up 2 points. Now, where'd I go? Okay, information related to the city. This is probably one of the trickiest questions on the survey we find when we're tabulating results. People are asked to rate the 6 options. 1 is the most used, 6 is the least often used. We have more non-responses or just improperly answered. Somebody will say, well, number 1 for all of them, or something along those lines. So we may be looking at this particular question in the future to maybe reword it a bit and make it easier to answer, in short. But the most popular item here, if you rank them, actually is in person from city staff, most often used to gain information, city's governmental channel, other, by phone, city website, and local newspaper. We also don't provide a section for people to write in what the other may be in this question, so I think we could probably adjust it a bit to get some better information. Rumors. I won't include that on the next. In conclusion, this is a quick and dirty review of this report, but this survey provides a tool, I think, to all leadership in the city to gain perspective of the average resident. Like I said, 81% of our respondents didn't come to a city council meeting, didn't write in, but they provided their information, how they feel the city is doing in this survey. Again, that 31% response rate, 5 completed surveys so far from 2002 to today. 95% of respondents feel that the quality of life is excellent or good. That's a wonderful percentage for our city. And we are on par, and in most cases, if not all, above comparable national ratings. And this survey and this report really provides a valuable tool for direction and as a resource for projects going forward. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions or clear anything up if I may.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Does council have any questions for Jen about this? Tom?
There was one number here that I saw that it looked like it didn't add up to 100%. And so I was wondering if, since the draft that you produced and now, have the numbers been?
No, but if you look at all the non-response answers and the don't know answers, in some instance there may be a percentage of don't knows, but they weren't included in the total.
Oh, okay.
So those, to make sure we get a good representation of how the citizens feel, we eliminate those answers.
So
if
if
there's
I
a
may
specific spot. Yeah.
So I've got one here, violent crimes, that adds up to more than 100%?
And you are on the survey tool? Or
On
in
the Appendix C,
Okay.
page 47.
Yeah. I have to double check that one. Yeah, I will
That'd be
do
great,
that.
thanks.
I think that's a rounding thing, probably.
Yeah, but it's
No, it's
Yeah.
it's pretty significant.
It's significantly
Yeah.
higher. I was thinking maybe 41
I
was
might have
14 or
transposed,
something.
yeah.
That's what I was wondering.
Let me double check that.
Okay.
Thank you.
thanks.
Other questions for Jen? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We
And
agree, that's a valuable
quickly, if I
tool.
could thank Bill Belknap reviewed some information for me. Lori Lewis does a wonderful job of collating data, and Gary has given me some great input along the way as well. And Mayor, you've reviewed it, so thank you to everybody who helped with that. Have a
Thanks
great
for your
evening.
work on that.
Yeah.
Our comments.
Speaking of sleep-deprived staff, right? Thank you.
Mayor Cheney, our
Yes,
comments
Tim?
out of line.
No, please do comment. That's
I
fine.
just want to make a couple of comments. Part of the document that we have here, and of course these are available for everybody if you want one through city staff.
Or online.
And they're online, thank you. And for us online challenged individuals, you have to go with the hard copy. Anyhow, the open-ended comments I thought were kind of interesting. Question 36, what do you feel will be the single most important issue facing the city of Moscow? And economic development was number one with 60 respondents, 23%. Number two was, of course, our ongoing plaguing problem of water. And number three, most important thing that the citizens that completed this survey felt were the need for more jobs, and the survey points that out. And on question 37, please use the following space to make comments and suggestions you would like to see the city of Moscow consider. Number one was city services, and that made sense to me. Number two, or tied for number two, was economic development and improvement of economic development and improve retail. So, which harkens back to my comments earlier to Mr. Jones. He's got big jobs to fill, and the citizens of Moscow in general, at least the ones that filled this report out, seem to concur. Thank you.
Your Honor, if I may.
Yes. I was just going to say the statistically reliable number of citizens who filled this out. Yes, Gary?
Thank you. I don't want the significance of the citizen survey to pass unnoticed. This is the fifth survey been done since 2002. We get a baseline of city services from this survey, and it's a measurable, statistically defensible snapshot of city services and the satisfaction of the community with the services that the city provides. Another very important factor or use of the citizen survey is every year the council holds a goal-setting session, and that is the lead-off to the budget process every year. And every year, we, of course, do the survey every 2 years, but that survey is brought forward for council consideration as those goals are being developed. So it in a very real sense, ties the needs of the community and the perceptions of the community to the work that the city council does. So it's a very good tool, and I'm proud to say that this document was developed in 2002, and it has been produced in-house since that time with regular updates. And that's something I think to be proud of, is to do a survey like this through the National Citizen Survey, for instance, would cost you between $15,000 and $30,000. So that's, and the assistant city supervisors who have done that, Jen Piffner, Bill Belknap before her, and Brant Kucera before him, have all done just an excellent job on this. So I want to thank them as well.
Well, Gary, there's a tremendous amount of input from staff and from our volunteer commissioners and the community members who participate and provide feedback on this. So I think it speaks well of the whole of the community and the services being provided by our city employees. So thank you for your leadership in that.